town notice, and what we're doing is welcome and introductions and announcements. Proposed municipal policy petition article. Lydia's come up with a zero waste policy as a possible alternative to what we had approved at our last meeting, and that was the municipal plastic bottle reduction policy. And we have minutes, treasury report, correspondence, and our next meeting on March 5th. So, where we left off was Lydia had this policy that we sort of read, and we looked at Lonnie's, and we were kind of back and forth between them, but then we did approve this one. And the action item was to come up with two versions of it. One as a policy that we would just go to the Board of Selectmen and propose a policy. And the second one was to have an article where we would to see if the town will vote to recommend the adoption of a municipal policy of bottle reduction, the municipal plastic bottle reduction policy. And that has exactly the same text as the policy itself, so it's just a different way. And if we do this petitioned article, then we need to get the 10 signatures, but I said 20 for good measure. And then Lydia's come up with a different approach, which is more comprehensive, and she can talk about that. But just in terms of how we should proceed.
Yeah.
One thing that we can do, I did make edits to it to try to kind of condense it and put it in this other form. And I have a track changes on, so you can see all the changes I've made to the one we were looking at our last meeting. And that's just to go over content. And then the other two are just, the same content is in here without the track changes. So that's if we want to go through it, change by change and make sure that those are acceptable, or if you want to make any changes. So we can do that first, or we could look at the alternative.
Oh.
Okay. Might be a moot point. So.
Currently, the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, has in their policies a policy on purchase of recycled goods. It was originally written in 1988. It was last updated in 2009, which is now quite a long time ago. It basically covers office paper. It doesn't cover anything more than that. So I thought what we could consider is to expand it and call it more of a zero waste policy. That's the existing policy on purchase of recycled goods. Since the municipal plastic bottle ban is a policy item, it might be a good place for it, and the zero waste policy to expand it. And I kind of copied the preamble, which is in recognition of the need to make more efficient use of our natural resources, reduce solid waste volume and disposal costs, create markets for the materials collected in recycling programs, and serve as a model for private and public institutions. The town of Wellfleet is committed to a zero waste policy that will phase out single-use plastic products. Wellfleet will instead purchase products which are environmentally preferable, and that's a term that the state uses on their contract, environmentally preferable, or made of recycled materials whenever such products meet quality requirements and are available at reasonable prices and terms. To the maximum extent practicable, the following standards should be adhered to. In the office, kitchen departments, to phase out all single-use disposable cups, plates, forks, knives, spoons. Expand community cutlery program to provide washable tableware in all town buildings. I had all town buildings outfitted with sinks, or you could take out the outfitted with sinks, but it might be hard for them to manage without. For instance, the harbor master's office does not have a sink. Mm-hmm. And they have a bathroom in the other building, I think. Priority procurement of products that are made of 100% recycled content or are compostable. So things that they would buy, for instance, paper towels and so on, would have to be made of recyclable, 100% recyclable, having, that content. Priority procurement for beverages, of beverages packaged in aluminum cans, cartons, or glass, meaning that they wouldn't be buying the plastic ones. And eliminate procurement of bottled water packaged in single-use plastic bottles, gallon jugs, or 5-gallon water cooler bottles. So that would eliminate the single-serve water bottles and also the ones that they use in the dispensers. And determine on an annual basis the feasibility of food waste collection for composting. This is something that we're just asking them to look at it on an annual basis to see if something's changed where they can, in fact, do it.
You're welcome.
I think that would be good to have in there because food waste will be, it's always a big part of the trash in the office or any place. Then there's a section on paper, like set double-sided printing by default in all town copiers and computers. Distribute periodic reports, including monthly town accounting reports, by email. We get this, it's 2 pages long. It's not printed double-sided as far as I can tell. And we get that every month, where it really could come to us by email, unless there's some kind of state law that requires a printed page. I don't know. So format flyers to be read as text messages. The Recreation Department, Becky Rosenberg, suggested this because she's able to communicate with parents by text message rather than slips of paper that they used to use. And encourage town boards, committees, commissions to provide meeting materials electronically. So we would share, which we do often, and share documents online, but we would go further and probably bring our computers, and like today we made 1 copy rather than a copy for each.
You did, I brought.
You did? You brought copies for everybody?
I did, because it was so hard last time to
Get
figure
the-
out what we were all, I said to expedite this, it might be easier, but
Okay. Especially, for a town meeting warrant, that's probably a good thing.
I figured since it was worse, and it was
Or
previously
policy,
printed on
whichever.
paper, so it's.
Right. And then ensure that all buildings are outfitted with LED lighting by 2020. I'm not sure what these are, but I think in the library they're still using the compact fluorescent bulbs, and also maybe in the gallery room, I'm not sure what kind they are, but I think they're not the LEDs, which they really should be. So there's a couple of other items. Choose recycled latex paint. There is a local vendor, recolorpaints.com, and a lot of our latex paint currently is going to that program. She takes it and filters it and mixes it up and creates new colors and sells it at Habitat for Humanity restores and other places.
Lady,
Mhm.
sorry, am I allowed to shut the door?
I think so, yeah.
If you don't
I'll
mind.
do it. And then I spoke to Clint Richmond of the Sierra Club, Massachusetts. He suggested durable goods, furniture, rugs, to look into that maybe at a future date, to try and buy things that don't have a lot of plastic material in them, because when it does come time to replace them, it makes it harder to dispose of. So that's an idea, to either present this to the select board to expand the policy beyond plastic bottles. Because the first step was to get the plastic bottle thing done, but if you want to expand it, that might be good.
So this would be in addition to,
Yes, yeah.
rather than instead of.
Well, I'm curious about what the select board wants to do. If they feel like it needs to go to town meeting, then we would have to make it an article, present them the article, and they would decide. I think our choice, or what we should do, is present them all of these options, and then they can decide the best way to go forward at a public meeting.
So when is their next meeting?
They meet tonight, they meet on, I think February 28th is the last day for resolutions, and then March 4th, on Monday, they start placing warrant articles.
So we would plan to be there tonight, or?
It's too late.
Not tonight, no,
Yeah,
it would have to
okay,
be
so the next meeting would be?
March 4th.
March 4th.
And what did you say the petitioned articles?
The February
is
28th is the
February
deadline for
28th.
those.
Okay.
So we would need to get in the petitioned, basically those are resolutions.
So you said March 4th?
March 4th, yeah, Monday.
Okay, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it is. I want to just double check.
I thought they start at 6:30 now, or 6.
They start at 6 typically. If I go to, let me go to the website just to make sure. And they usually meet on Tuesdays, but this is a Monday.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So, go to March, see if it may not even be up there.
So I thought you were proposing this in place of, because it contains the same language.
I would like that, but I just want to
Yeah.
be sure that you feel it's strong enough for what you want to do.
No, it's certainly a good starting point.
I think it sounds great.
Some things that I was thinking about, well, one of my concerns about this is that we haven't had time to shop it around and talk to all the different departments, like how police and fire and COA and rec, library, kids programs, things that go on at the library, whether they're procuring the products or not. I just think we would need to due
Yeah.
diligence, and that there may be things like we were talking about last time that, it's a great start, but there may be other things that we would want to include in that.
Right.
And if it is a policy, it doesn't have to be tied to town meeting.
That's true.
So we could work on that more and bring that at a later, and then just start with what we've had more time and already had a meeting, since we had a meeting with, town department heads, or a couple anyway, and Kathleen. We have good buy-in on that one.
So you're suggesting that if it is a policy, that we could present it as Liddy has written, and then in the meantime collect any information on the departments and their use of plastics and.
Well, I don't know if we have time to do that for this one, but for the one that we already approved, but later made some changes to, that's the one that Mudhobby came and talked to us about, and Kathleen was there.
Shall we look at that
Hillary.
one? And just,
Yeah, so, it seems like this one is further along, and if we, we'd originally thought of it as an article, but then after we talked to Joe Powers, he said that since it is targeted at municipal procurement, that it's not really a general bylaw, because that's for the public, and he thought it looked more like a Board of Selectmen policy. But you could still ask, put an article saying, that we want, how's the language? That, is the one, in order to,
is it the kind of preamble to
I
the
was just wondering where I put it.
in
Where's
recognition
the
of
one
the
that I
need?
just looked at that had the policy? So that's just the policy.
This is the part.
I guess, here it is. So this says, to see if the town will vote to recommend the adoption of a municipal plastic bottle policy as follows, and then it's a policy. And
This
the
is for
format
town
is
meeting.
different because the original one that we approved was formatted as a bylaw, with the purpose and intent and definitions and all that stuff. I just removed that. And then at the end, and take any other actions relative thereto. So it's basically just saying, if it's approved, then it's a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to adopt this as the Board of the select board policy. But it's essentially the same thing. So if we just go before them with a policy, you can do that any time of year, any meeting, get on the agenda.
I think that was the point I was trying to make, is that you would present Lydia's version here
Now?
now,
Mhm.
and then at some point in the future, you could also go to them with more detailed things, and they would vote on that.
Oh.
I mean, it's pretty easy with the select people, and they can vote at any
Mhm.
meeting
Mhm.
on anything, so
Mhm.
even if it weren't completely elaborated and you hadn't gone to all the departments, after a while you'd be
Mhm.
getting feedback for sure,
That's
Right.
true.
and then you could
Mhm.
go to them again.
Okay.
And some are already doing what, I mean, in terms of their kitchens, for instance, the library, we know, has china and cups and plates.
And they do here too, yeah. So they-
Yeah, most of and the senior center as well uses all china and washables at their lunches. But I think the parts that expand it, for instance, about the recycled content and eliminating the use of plastic bottles,
Mhm.
that is a bigger deal. And I'm not sure how it works at the DPW building, Public
Mhm.
Conservation. And just having the food waste collection as an idea there, not
Mhm.
saying that they're going to call for
Right.
it, but we're asking to see if it's feasible.
So were you still thinking that, I mean, does this have enough in it to replace this, is I guess what I was wondering.
Yeah, well, let's see. Well, in a way, I'd like the select board to decide. I think if they would like to place it on the warrant, I think, it would be quite strong. And this they don't need to put on the warrant, the zero waste policy. This they can do on their own.
Well, Mojave idea was to get it onto warrants just for the visibility, because I
Yeah.
guess a lot of people want to move towards a plastic bottle ban
Right.
wide, and this is sort of get first steps for
Mhm.
municipal.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be good to try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So shall we look at it and then decide whether we like
How do you
the version?
Maybe it's really matter whether this one.
Do you have
is,
one already? Oh, okay, so that's perfect. Do you want to share one?
I have one.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter which form it's in.
Oh, I noticed.
So it's on it.
So that's not,
No, there's-
Here, I'll stick it for Lonnie.
oh yeah, that's the. There's,
Okay, thank you.
that is the recycled goods. Should we read this into the record? or-
Sure. Yeah, do you want to?
Okay. Plastic bottle reduction policy. Plastic is a known human health hazard based on the fact that it cannot biodegrade and enters the human food chain. Further, plastic production relies on non-renewable fossil fuel resources and creates toxic emissions at the point of production, recycling, and incineration-based waste disposal. Also, there's evidence that hormone-like chemicals within plastic leach into bottled beverages, thereby presenting yet another entry point for adverse health consequences. Avoidance of plastic circumvents the hazards associated with its manufacture, use, and disposal. In order to protect human health, wildlife, and the environment from plastic pollution and serve as a model for organizations, businesses, and residents, this policy prohibits the town of Wellfleet from procuring or distributing single-use plastic bottles or cups containing water or any other beverage. single-use plastic bottle or cup is a beverage container of any size made from any type of plastic resin, may contain recycled material, and may be sold as recyclable, biodegradable, or compostable. This policy does not apply during a declaration of an emergency adversely affecting the availability and/or quality of drinking water by the town, Commonwealth, or United States. This policy may be temporarily waived by the Select Board for a specific circumstance where there's no viable alternative to single-use plastic containers. So this is the same stuff we had in here, just a little bit, yeah. And so if anybody wants to look at just the differences that I made to pick and choose or see what happened to anything, I have red lines of it.
No, it seems very good. It seems if you present the select board with this version, not a bylaw version, they'll get the content
Right.
and they'll understand that they can decide whether they think it's a good idea to make it into a bylaw, in which case we can revisit it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
When we talked to Joe about bylaw, I can't remember if we talked about that last time. He said that, the idea of it would be hard for the town to, well, that's right, we took the enforcement and the fines and all that kind of stuff
Right.
out. So, but anyway, like you said, they can look at it and make a determination.
So the part about the effective date and so on, does that need
Well-
to go back in there?
Well,
or
that was for a bylaw, but for policy, they're effective whenever
as soon
they
as
approve
it's
them. Yeah.
approved? Okay,
And
so
that's
the,
why I put the thing in about the plastics, specific circumstances, because like if the recreation department can't get it together for,
Mhm.
like let's say they do say, okay, yeah, we adopt this policy in May, and then the road race is coming up in
yeah,
that summer,
Right.
and the rec department is not able yet to comply.
We
Who
gave-
knows the way out?
in the article version, we gave the recreation department 2 years to 2021.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'd like to give them both.
Okay.
I think that would,
Mhm.
they might do both, or they might say, make this an article.
Okay.
And let's hear from,
Okay, that sounds fine.
So when does that need to be implemented?
I think it would need to be in this Friday, or actually Thursday. Say if it has to be 2 full days before the meeting where they're considering it. So March 4th is a Monday.
Right,
Yeah,
but if we've got it already figured out, we
Yeah.
can give it to them
20th,
immediately,
Yeah.
right?
right.
Great.
So we can vote on this version then. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we go with this version. Let's do that.
Okay. Second?
I'm seconded.
Okay. All those approved? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously approved. And you had mentioned last time about if something is going through before the select board, that you should say who proposed the motion and who, or just how it
The
was voted.
recommendations? They
No,
have,
you
um,
remember when we had to have a meeting to make sure that we had all approved
Right,
of
right,
something
right.
that for the select board?
Yeah, so who moved it and who
Okay.
seconded it?
Okay.
And then, and then for the zero waste policy, should we vote on that too?
Okay.
So I move that the co-chairs present the zero waste policy as drawn up by Lydia at the March 4th meeting.
I second it. You want to call for the vote? Since
All in favor?
Alrighty. So it's Lonnie, Christine, all in favor.
There's, to today's agenda, can I just see this one?
Sure. So if we want to bring the one that is a petitioned article, we need to have some signatures,
Mm-hmm.
which probably would not be difficult for us to get.
Mhm.
Probably go
Yeah.
around town. So do you want to do that so that we have that as an
I
option?
think as long as if we're covered in all bases, I think
Right.
would be good.
Okay.
So can we sign?
I think
Yeah,
so.
because
Yeah.
it's we as citizens, not we as a town committee. That's my understanding anyway. So I'll start this version, and then I brought a couple of copies if different people want to. I'll start on this one.
A future concern is a resolution for state action to combat nip bottles and single-use water bottle litter. That's it's just a resolution that would encourage the governor to consider putting a deposit on nips and plastic water bottles. The city of Gloucester is looking at it in Salem. So that's something we could look at the next meeting.
Okay. And it's a resolution to the governor
Yeah.
to support.
Mm-hmm. So all over the state, there's activity on plastic bottles.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that's for our March.
And that was one thing that was already given to the select board was the Wellfleet balloon reduction bylaw that was submitted.
You already submitted that to them?
Right.
And do you have can you email me a copy of that, or is this
Yeah.
the copy? These are all coming from different directions. Was it Hillary or Becky that? It was
That-
Hillary, wasn't it?
Yeah, we
Who-
discussed that at our last meeting at the library.
Right, but it was Hillary
bigger
who
meeting.
sent you an email?
Yeah, that's right, because the town of Orleans is considering a balloon
Right,
reduction bylaw.
right.
Ours is expanded theirs because ours includes not just hot air, but regular air. That you breathe in.
Very important.
And
Yeah.
and the letter to the resolution, that was Dan, right?
Yeah, Dan, a person named Dan Cameron sent this to Dan Hort, our town administrator, the resolution for state action to combat nip bottle and single-use water bottle litter. That seems to be going around, being shared around the state.
Uh-huh. So is that a Wellfletian who sent it to me?
No, I'm not sure who Dan Cameron, where he's from. And I meant lighter than air, not hot air, because we have hot air.
Alrighty, so I got to. Now, as far as the zero waste policy, we'll present that just as a policy, not a petitioned article, or do you want to?
Yeah, just a policy, I
Policy,
think, yeah.
okay.
Oh, it's there already.
And if we just do it this way as a petitioned article, then we could say, well, it could be either that or just a policy.
Right, just so that we're covering everything.
Okay, sounds good. Alrighty, so how do we proceed with getting signatures?
Well, at the swap shop or at the
I was thinking the library.
the
actually.
library is a good
Uh-huh.
place, sure.
Yeah, I bet everybody at the library would sign.
Right. That could be residents, so.
Right, oh, that's true, of course.
I mean, we know all the staff would, but.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking for the other,
There's one more in here, the town petitions, if somebody's willing to take it somewhere. There's another one you can also have.
Is that which is this one?
it's the same as this, but we
Okay.
can get signatures and just provide the 2 pages of signatures, so they don't all have to be on one. We can
Okay.
have them on different.
Mhm.
And I can send other copies to anybody else who wants to try elsewhere. So
Mhm.
how do we do this? So we have to do it before, we want to do it like in the next,
Yeah, we have to get it to the
Today
May
or tomorrow.
28th.
and that's
We have to have it by
Thursday.
tomorrow night,
Yeah.
or Thursday night, you say?
Yeah,
Right.
today's the 26th, though, Thursday.
Okay.
I think it's by the time they close, which is 4 o'clock. Probably want to get it in earlier, just,
Right.
so we have a couple days.
Okay.
And there is a select board meeting tonight. So we could collect some signatures
That's a good
there.
idea.
There's also, I'm not sure what's happening tomorrow, but there's,
Well, maybe between the library and select board meeting,
yeah,
and I could, we can always go around to people who live nearby and we know.
yeah, that sounds good.
You can
So-
go to yoga tomorrow morning.
Oh, that'll get all your signatures,
I
right?
sure will. So library, yoga, and boss meeting, and that's tonight at
At 6 at the
6.
senior center.
Okay. I guess I could go to that. Would you want to go to that?
Sure. Yes.
Well, I could take this to the library sometime this afternoon, see what I can
That
do.
would be wonderful.
And then I would bring it back.
What be filled up in no time.
15
Well,
minutes
the energy
later.
committee had like 10 pages
Yeah,
on
they
there,
really-
so like 200 and something. So actually got the format for it from Dick.
Oh, good.
So
So then, should I directly bring it back to somebody here, or?
Maybe
just-
check with Christine.
yeah, or give it to you. So who is it that we give it to?
The administration office. They have to, I think Jean McLaughlin, she probably stamps it
Okay.
because it's a kind of a principal clerk thing, I think.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Just as long as it's in, you may complete it tomorrow or,
Right.
Already.
Okay.
and yeah, I
Well,
think
you're close to Lydia.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're
or equidistant, or actually, maybe a bit closer to the town hall, but.
you're very close to the town. It's a whole 10 minutes walking for
But
me.
my driveway comes to town hall, so.
That's true.
But what Christine said is really important is that they do have to be registered voters.
Yeah.
monthly.
Yeah, I understand that.
Is there any other business? Our next meeting is on the 5th? 4th? 5th.
Yeah, yes.
On Tuesday. Actually, I'd like to go to the library too, because I was going to ask them if we could get the big room, like we talked
Yeah,
about,
that's
so that
nice,
we could
yeah.
start not having to have so much paper and use the overhead.
Mhm.
It'd be nice if they had an overhead in the little room.
Mhm.
Too small, I guess.
Remember those things in school where it would magnify the piece of
Yes.
paper on top of
I know. Maybe they have one in the storeroom.
a.
Okay, and
I wanted to. This is Edible Cape Cod, and it has an article about Madavi in it,
oh, it
and
does.
the water bottle,
Oh, this
the
initiative.
plastic bottle ban.
Oh, I wonder how other towns are getting on it. Oh, it's one of their beach cleanups at La Count Hollow.
Too picky.
Oh yeah, they're doing they're sponsoring environmental movies at the Orpheum. Also.
Yeah, that's where I first met
Oh,
her.
here's the. Oh, is that where you met her? Oh, here's the schedule.
At Divide and Concord.
Okay, so I guess we can adjourn the meeting. All business is concluded. Thank you all for coming on such short notice.